Hey guys, Jodicus here again. Today is Monday, February 1st, 2016. The Division beta ends today, and I want to give you guys a little more information from the betas, in particular the Dark Zone. But before I get into that, I want to highlight just a few things I did not go over in my last video. Might be some simplistic stuff, but I wanted to mention it nonetheless. I mentioned this was an RPG MMO, and yes, you can level your character even in this military style modern day MMO, which as with any RPG allows you access to equip more abilities and stat changing skills like perks, as well as equipped armor and weapons which have a higher level requirement. Speaking of gear, anything above a common level item or white colored item, which includes uncommon and rare items, which are green and blue respectively, not only have standard stats that increase their archetype, being damage for a weapon or armor for, armor, they also have additional perks on them that increase other stats, making it more beneficial to find higher tiered gear and equip them over common level items. I have yet to see anything above a blue tier item existing in the game, but if it does, I imagine there are more and or better perks on them. Unlocking abilities in the Division isn't as easy as just leveling your character. Once you unlock your base of operations, you are greeted to an introduction on the 3 branches within your base of operations, which are also aligned to the same 3 branches in your ability skill trees, which you have access to on your character. These include medical, technology, and defense. You are then greeted with knowledge that you will be assigned specific missions themed around these categories to get these branches operational. On top of that, side missions are themed already to give you resources for those specific branches. When you have enough of these resources earned, you can upgrade a branch at your base of operations, which will unlock more abilities and also unlock mods for your abilities, which allow for some more depth to your builds. Focusing on a specific type of mission or main mission will allow you to focus on one skill tree if that's how you like to spec out your character. Okay, now let's talk about Dark Zone content in the Division. I actually got time to play the Dark Zone before the beta went down. Dark Zone is an area or zone in the Division you can choose to travel to once the base of operations is unlocked, at least in the beta. I don't know if that's the case in the full game. I can best describe the Dark Zone as a PvE/PvP area. It isn't something common in most games, but I'll do my best to explain it here. In the Dark Zone, you and your fire team, which can be up to 4 players, go into this area. Within the Dark Zone, or DZ as the game likes to call it, you spend your time looking for high-level NPC enemies and loot caches, which drop special in-game level gear and weapons. The thing about this loot you obtain from NPCs and caches in the DZ, though, is all of it is contaminated, which means you cannot use it until you extract it. What this means is there are extraction points all around the DZ, and your job, once you have obtained this loot, is to get to any extraction zone and wait for the helicopter to come and get your loot out of there. Why, you ask? Well, here's the thing. Remember that PvP part I mentioned earlier? In the Dark Zone, you're not the only fire team, and you can and most likely will run into others. Here's the interesting part though, and what ultimately makes this crazy dynamic about the DZ at all times. When you run into other fire teams, you are neutral to each other. In fact, you can even assist each other in taking out NPC enemies. But on the flip side, at any time another player can attack you as well. Well, why would you do that, you ask? Because they can take all the loot that you have earned in the DZ already from the NPCs and loot caches from your cold, dead hands. What happens here is you and your fire team go out in the wild and do work on getting some crazy good loot. You then go to an extraction zone so you can keep and use the loot later, but what you're going to find is that there will be groups who will most likely wait around in an extraction zone hunting people trying to claim loot, or just a fire team in transit who happens to see someone trying to extract and attack just because they see an opportunity and want to capitalize on it. It is really shitty, but for some reason really intense and engaging, making you want to play more. I can almost relate it to a zombie apocalypse style situation. The world has gone to crap, the undead are everywhere, and in the middle of all this chaos, every living person you run into is the most major threat in your line of sight compared to any undead human. Why? Because they're unpredictable. The rules are off the table and they can do whatever they want without any consequences. That is basically the definition of the Dark Zone. There are drawbacks to attacking other players in the DZ though. If you shoot another player, not only you, but your whole fire team get flagged with a big red skull icons over your head, letting all the other fire teams in the area know you are not good news, and all other neutral fire teams can take you down without flagging themselves. And if you're flagged long enough doing nothing but being trolls, aka loot dicks, to other players, you start to get a bounty on your head. And the longer you manage to stay alive, the larger the bounty becomes. In short, every fire team will soon make it their business to come help out just to get rewarded for your head. So what about if you keep getting your loot taken, you ask? How do you ever get better to compete in the dark zone? Don't worry, there is a solution to that. For just being in the DZ and killing NPCs or rogue players, you earn DZ ranking credits. This works very similar to any reputation system in MMOs if you're familiar with those. When you reach a certain DZ rank and you have enough DZ credits, you can go to any checkpoint on the edge of the DZ, which is an area you go to before entering the dark zone, where a vendor sits, which you can then use your points to buy blue tier items. So ultimately, your time in the dark zone is not wasted. Ultimately, guys, that is everything I have on the dark zone right now, and I wanted to shed some light on this part of the game for you guys. I can also say this will most likely make or break people buying this game or not, only if this is all the Division has to offer for in-game content. I cannot answer that question right now, as they have not revealed everything to do in the game yet. I still recommend this game to anyone who enjoyed Destiny though, or want a game full of depth to play with friends. Good news is, we might not have to wait too much longer to find out. Gaming media website IGN, you may have heard of them, is covering the Division this month, and they're sure to reveal all sorts of information about the game. If you guys would like me to keep you updated, sound off in the comments below. I might not have all the answers for you guys, but I can at least shed light when the light is given. Before I go on, I wanted to say thanks once again to Drifter. I met him at PAX South, and without asking, he offered to bump my channel. So, if you're watching this because he led you here, I thank you for taking the time, and I hope you enjoyed my content. If you would like to see or hear anything from me, feel free to recommend anything in the chat below. Follow me on Twitter to see when I go live on my Twitch channel. And hey, if you want to see more, don't be afraid to hit that subscribe button. Thanks again to everybody. Until next time, later.